Hey guys, welcome to Let's Code Some Android Apps, and let's get started. So today we are going to be focusing on Recycler View. Recycler View deals with a lot of items in a list that gets implemented into a scroll view, but it also has a lot of leeway for customization. So let's just dive right in, and hopefully by the end of this video you will understand how to implement your own Recycler View and see why it's useful. So today the idea for our application is we have an ice cream man, and he is way too lazy to update the pictures on his ice cream truck every day. So he told everyone who buys ice cream from him that he has an app, and every day he'll update it with all the wonderful flavors of ice cream he has. And that way he doesn't have to do the tedious task of changing the images on his ice cream van. So he is creating this app called Ice Cream Man, and it will use Recycler View. And so we will see why this is useful. Anyways, so we're going to call this Ice Cream Man 2 because I already had written 1, but that's okay. So we're going to create a new project, Ice Cream Man 2. Next, if we could get to next. Anyways, pick an API you want to target. API is just the version of Android you want to target. Just has to do with features and whatnot, blah blah blah. And we're going to start with an empty activity, and we're going to call this Ice Cream Main. Cool, and while that's building, we're going to take a look at what Recycler View looks like. So this is the developer.android.com website. It has all you need to know about anything when you're making Android apps and all that stuff. It is really super useful. You can find anything you need to know here. Right here, I am on the Create a List with Recycler View page, and it's showing us, hey, this is what we're going to build. We're going to build something similar, not as complex or nice looking as this, but you can get there very easily. So one of the first things we'll notice here when we go to the page, and with a lot of the things that you want to do in Android Studio, you're going to need to add something to your dependencies. And what your dependencies are basically stuff that isn't already in the Android Studio when you open it. It's like new features, basically, you can think of it like. So we are going to, hopefully this guy builds. He is working on it. Just while that's still building, we got two more things we're going to add to our Android app. For our app, we're going to be using Picasso. It's a free caching library, and what it lets you do is basically load images from links. So like if we had some Google image or some place on the web where we had a link to an image, Picasso is really great for letting you load those images into your applications. So now that our app is built, we are here in our main activity. This is where we're going to display our Recycler View. So you can see that the content view for this is our activity ice cream main layout, which Android Studio has created for us already. We're going to keep things simple and go with a linear layout. Get rid of this. I'm going to set the orientation to vertical. It's set by this by default, but I like to set it just so I don't forget if I'm doing horizontal and whatnot. And our first child is just going to be a really simple title. We're going to say ice cream flavors, and it's going to go above our Recycler View. And we're going to just make it look just a bit nicer. We're going to make it say match parent, and we're going to give it a background color. And we're going to make it light blue. Cool. So we have our title, and then we need to, before we can even add Recycler View, we're going to switch this to Project Blue. I like that a little better. And we're going to go into our Android manifest. Our build.gradle. And we're going to add that implementation for Recycler View so that we can use it in our app. And while we're here, we are also going to add our dependency for Picasso. So copy that. And we're going to add Picasso here. Now it's going to ask for a sync because these are new dependencies, and it needs to make sure that they're going to work with all versions of the other dependencies that we're running. So we sync now. Because I'm going to be grabbing my images from the web, from my own database I actually have in the cloud, I'm also going to need to add the uses internet permission in my Android manifest. So I grab the uses internet permission, and this one is the one that actually goes in your manifest file. You go outside the application tag, and copy and paste, and now our Android app can use the web. It can connect to the internet. So cool. So when we're using Picasso, we're always going to want to add this, because then we can grab images from the web because we have their permission to. Thank you, Android. So now we can add our recycler view, assuming that it compiled okay. It's saying it failed, but I think we're okay. We're going to set it to match parent wrap content. Wrap content just means it's going to be as big as it needs to be to fit. And cool. We are going to reference this later, so we need to give it an ID. Call this ice cream recycler. Cool. Now, here we are in our main activity. We have our layout file. It has a title and a recycler view, but this recycler view has no data. It is going to be a blank mess if we run this app. So we are going to get into some coding and how it works with recycler view. To populate it with data, you actually need to create a new Java class called an adapter. So we're going to go into our Java class folder. We're going to create a new Java class, and we're going to name this ice cream adapter. Cool. I already wrote out this adapter, so you don't have to watch me type it out. That would be pretty boring. And now we're going to paste this in here. It is going to complain that this is the wrong package name, but that's okay. And yeah, cool. We're going to notice we have some errors. That's because we haven't added the layout file for this adapter. And how adapter view works, if we go back to the recycler view page on the Android website and you look at it, you notice that these are both these two card views and then these two emails. They're different, but they're also the same in a way. They both populate the recycler view, but each of them has a different thing. Here we have 3 text views and 2 image views. Here we have an image view and this. Now, each of these items, however, if we look at just the right side, they have the same layout kind of setup. And over here, same thing. They have the same format for each item. Now how that works is, if we look in our adapter, we have this method here that we override. And it is called ice cream adapter view holder. And you'll notice that when we inflate the view for this view holder, that it takes a layout as a parameter. And that layout is exactly what we were talking about right here. So in our case, we are going to go to our res folder, our layout folder, and then we are going to say a new layout resource file. And what did we want to call this? We wanted to call this ice cream layout item. Ice cream layout item. So this is going to determine how each item populates the recycler view and what kind of style, and that will make more sense when we run the app, but for now, let's just focus on the code. So we're going to go into our ice cream layout item, and it is by default a constraint layout. We're going to change that, grab the code that was here, copy, and paste that. Now we don't need 2 of these. Okay, cool. So this is what each item in our recycler view, the format that they're going to follow. And for our case, with the ice cream app, we are just going to have an image view, which is the ice cream picture. It's going to be on the left. This linear layout is set to horizontal, so the children are going to populate from left to right. And on the left, we're going to have this image view of each ice cream picture. Each ice cream also has a name, so a following text view. A very simple and nothing as cool as the email application, but it's functional and it teaches you recycler view. So let's get into it. So now that's cool. It says we're using this layout file, and I'll post links for this code so you can kind of walk through it yourself. It's going to take a little while to explain all of it, but I'll do my best as I can. So beneath that method, we have a method called onBindViewHolder. And this one, basically, when each view holder, each item is created, what do you want to do with the views within the view holder? And so in our case, what we want to do is, talking about that Picasso library I mentioned earlier, we want to populate our image view, our ice cream image view, that we can see. This ice cream image view, we got a reference for it earlier in this class. I know I didn't show it, but we got a reference to this ice cream icon, which goes back to our layout item, which we were just talking about. And notice, ice cream icon, get a reference to ice cream icon. This variable public image view, ice cream image view, is public so that we can call it anywhere in the class. It could be private too, but anyways. So we get a reference to that, and down here, this same image view, we are going to be using Picasso to load links into this image view. This is going to be If you want to load from the web, you're going to want to use a library like Picasso or Glide, and in this case we're using Picasso. So I have links that I will be showing shortly to the web for pictures of ice cream. Then I also hard-coded the names, so we're going to set the text for the text view in our recycler view item to the name of the ice cream to the corresponding image. Cool. So what errors are we still finding? Okay, we still have an error that we don't have this. That's fine. And I will go through this one more time in just a second, but just get all these errors out of the way. We're going to make a new class, ice cream detail. We're going to make our recycler view clickable so that when you click on it, you can go to a detail page. Cool. Let's get the code for ice cream detail. Actually, we want this whole method. Okay. We're going to want this extend app compat activity. Okay, this just means that it's basically an activity that our application can use. Don't worry too much about that, but if you want to create a new activity, you're always going to want to extend app compat activity. Then we're going to paste our onCreate method. So when this is created, this is what gets called. Anyways, why are you giving me an error? Because there's too many of these guys. Cool. Yes, image view is part of the studio. Yes. Yes, import Picasso. Yes, bundle. Cool. And now this guy. So we're creating a new activity. So basically the idea is when we click on an item in our recycler view, that it can open a new activity and give some more details on the ice cream, like say the size it comes in, I don't know, fun fact about it, it was from Wisconsin, something like that. Anyways, so we have our second activity, ice cream detail, that in our adapter we are saying, we don't need this line, we are saying when we click on an item in the recycler view that we would like to open the details screen. And then it's not just opening the details screen for any any random ice cream. We are saying, hey, based on the item that we clicked on, get the position, the adapter position we clicked in, and get the ice cream image from that position, and get the ice cream name from that position, and we're saying it as put extra, so that what happens is when we open this new activity, that these image links and names actually get passed to the second activity. So you can see that we also retrieve that data in the second activity. We're getting the image and the name. Get intent that opened the activity, get the extra that was passed with that, and this is a key value pair. So the key is image, the value is the image link. And we're retrieving the string to the image link based on the key, the image key, and the name key. And then we're populating the values of the detail screen with this ice cream. Pretty cool. So, one thing I don't want to forget to do, we have to declare that we've created a new activity in our Android application. So, in our Android manifest, we have a new activity. We're saying it's got to be inside this application tag. You'll notice that we also have our first activity, ice cream main, and this intent filter here just means that it's the one that starts when Android Studio starts up. Don't worry about that too much. You can put it on whichever activity you want. I don't recommend having it on more than one. Your app probably won't run. Cool. So now notice that we don't have these views because we don't have a layout file yet. So we need to make a layout file for this detail one, and we are going to name it detail ice cream. Cool. And then detail ice cream. We're going to copy and paste that stuff. Cool. And now we have our layout for our ice cream detail. You'll see that when we see this set content view, it's just saying what layout file should we load for this activity, and we're saying that we want to load the detail ice cream. And then this is the image view and text view we want to populate with details about the ice cream. Right now it's just an image of the ice cream in the name, but if your own application wanted to have more detail, you could easily do that. Cool. So let's just cover this recycler view a little more, because that is the main function of this video. So now we're going to get into a little more depth about this. So just to follow the flow of the code, we should probably actually instantiate this recycler view. So good thing I remember. If we look in our main activity, this is where really it's important to pay attention, because this is kind of how you make sure your recycler view is working properly. So I'm going to copy a few methods there, copy a few things here. Okay. Cool. Yes, context is a thing, and yes, recycler view is a thing. Cool. So if we're looking at it, we're making this a private variable. That just means that it's private to this class. You can't call it outside of this class. It's inheritance. And so we have our recycler view. We want to make sure down here we get a reference to it. So this is your recycler view in your activity. It's like, there it is. And we also are getting a reference to the context, meaning the context is just this activity. So we have created a method here called, why is this giving an error? It should not be giving an error. Because it doesn't know what an array list is. Come on, Android, you're better than that. So we have this method called update ice cream recycler, and basically running through this code, we're saying if the reference we got to our recycler view isn't null, meaning does our recycler view exist? Well, yes it does, but we're just checking. Then we're going to say, hey, this recycler view needs an adapter so that all the data we want to populate it with, that it can make it into our recycler view. Now, if we look in our adapter class, we're going to go a little slow here just so all this makes sense. With this class, I highly recommend just taking a look at it yourself and kind of making sure that it makes sense, like why all the methods are here. I'm running through it now, but it's always better with these guys to take a look at it on your own. So the constructor for this ice cream adapter is actually in the middle down here, which seems a little weird, I know. Like, this always confused me when I was starting out. And anyways, so you're going to see that here's your constructor, and it takes 3 parameters. It takes a context. So if we look in our ice cream main, that's why we got a reference to our context. It takes an array list of type string for our ice cream image list. And the reason this is type string and not type drawable or type image is because we're using Picasso, and Picasso uses image links, which are type string. So we're actually just giving the links to the images so that Picasso can load it. And then the third parameter is just the name of the ice creams. So that's just string. So if we look at it here, ice cream adapter equals new ice cream adapter. First parameter context, got that up here, get application context. And now we're actually calling the method generate ice cream image links. So if we look down here, this is a public array list, and instead of, you'll notice it's not public void, it's not a method. This public array list returns an array list. So it returns an array list that's populated with the links to our images. And now I could have used Firebase and gone on the web and said, give me the links, and we could have gone into that whole thing, but I wanted to keep this video simple, so I just hard-coded these. These are links to my Firebase storage where I have images for these ice cream images. And Picasso can use these links to download these images and load them into our app, which is pretty cool, because any link on the web that pertains to an image, you can then load into your app, so it's pretty cool. So we have our vanilla ice cream image link right here, string, mint chocolate chip, and cotton candy. We create a new array list. We say, hey, this is the links, our ice cream image links array list. It is a new array list, and its type is string. And then we just add our links. So notice that we're using an array list. You could easily use an array. I prefer array list. It's just a little easier if you're just adding a bunch of values over and over. You could also do it in an array. It's pretty much the same, whatever works best for you. And then we return this. So when we call that generate ice cream links, this right here, and we call it in the parameter, it returns the array list as a parameter. And same with the generate ice cream names. It's the exact same method, but except for with names. And then our ice cream recycler view, it has to have a layout manager, which just is kind of like how each items are laid out. With a linear layout manager, it literally gets laid out exactly like this. So like this is like a linear layout manager, with this being the layout file for each item. And then this is also like a linear layout manager. just give you another example. Another layout manager could be like Grid Layout Manager. Sorry, it's being slow. Come on. Sorry about that. Anyways, that's fine. A grid layout manager is just like you have each item in like a grid kind of layout. You could have like 3 items per row, and that could be the grid. But that's not super important. You can play around with that. It's all in the documentation on the Android website. And then we actually want to, this adapter we just created, we do ice cream recycler view dot set adapter, and then set it to that ice cream adapter we just created here. So basically the data comes from these array lists. It gets fed into our adapter. Our adapter says, okay, for each item we need to create a view. This method says, hey, we need to create a view for each item, or a view holder that has views in it. What layout file do we use? We said we're going to use that layout file we created. When that layout is created for each item, what do we do with those views? And well, here we're saying we're going to populate the image view via Picasso and load images into that image view. And then we're going to say, okay, for the text view of that layout file, give the name to the ice cream too. Cool. Pretty simple. And then up here is actually a method for what you want to do once each view holder is created. And so here we have it set that we're going to open, like I said earlier, we're going to open that new intent. Cool. So it's pretty much done. We have set it up so that our ice cream adapter is going to open it up. It's going to have a recycler view and a title, and it's going to be able to open our detail screen. Let me make sure I did not forget anything as far as dependencies go. We have the internet permission, we declare our application. Yeah, we're good. So we're going to open this app on an actual device and see what it looks like. Alright guys, cool. So here we are in our application, and as you can see, we have our recycler view. It's only got 3 items, but as many data points as you can have, you can basically load into a recycler view. And so here we have our 3 flavors. It loaded smoothly. Our title is very small, but that's okay. When you click on this, it opens the detail screen, and this is where, like, if you wanted to like list like price, quantity, how many cones are left, fun facts, whatever, you could do it. One thing I forgot to mention was I had made one mistake in the code, which is in the ice cream adapter item view.set on click listener on click method. When we start the second activity, you have to put view.getContext. I had just put just get context. You have to put view.getContext.start activity. But again, I will put the fixed code in the link in the description. I'm thinking for the next video, expanding on this application, adding some more ice cream and talking about why it's important to save the state of the recycler view. If you go into an app like your email and you rotate your device, what happens is it destroys the activity and creates a new one unless you save the state. So why it's important to save the state is, say that we scrolled down 1,000 and then we rotated the screen and didn't save the state, it would basically recreate the whole activity from the top, and you would be at the top of your recycler view, and we don't want that. So basically, if you save the state and you've scrolled down 1,000, you rotate the device, it will restore the state and you will be scrolled right to the same position. I just didn't want to do that for this video because it's already been a pretty long video, and yeah, but look for that video if you're interested. Once it's uploaded, I'll probably put a clickable button thingy on my YouTube video, and hope you enjoyed. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, any videos you want to see, comments, feedback, I'd really appreciate it. It's my first YouTube video, so I hope I did okay, and I hope I taught you guys something useful. Also, I think I'll be doing videos on Firebase in the future and other unique Android stuff, so thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.